know whether there's been an outcome on this matter or are investigations ongoing?
Up to date, there's been no significant breakthrough on this matter, Commissioners, but we are looking into the matter again.
Thank you. Then I think you can turn to paragraph 5, which is...
Sorry, before you do.
Yes.
This is an operation in 2020. What would have happened to the drugs that were seized as at today? What happened?
Commissioner Baloyi, this is also the matter that I spoke to yesterday. The Mandrax seizure, the 547
Yes.
that went to Isipingo. So as I've indicated, upon closure of the inquiry, Forensic Science Laboratory are informed of the outcome of the investigation, and they then have the responsibility to dispose of the exhibits. So the current status of the Mandrax, I do not have any knowledge of.
But ordinarily it would be where? If you say the investigation is still ongoing.
Obviously, we after I summoned or requested these inquiries, we've looked into it, identified aspects that need further investigation. So that's why we are continuing with the investigation part.
Okay.
But once a narcotic specifically is handed or submitted to the Forensic Science Laboratory, it's never returned to a SAP 13 facility.
Okay.
It is kept at Forensic Science Laboratory until the matter is finalized and then disposed of.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner Baloyi and General Flynn. So would it be correct then to conclude, because you don't say otherwise, as to where the Mandrax is it a correct expectation that it should be with the FSL in Silverton, where it was delivered on the 12th of November 2021?
If it's not already disposed of, it's supposed to be there, Commissioner.
And would I be correct to say that what becomes of the seized drugs is regulated in terms of your annexure HFF3 from page 103? Would I be correct? And in particular, I guess I'm interested in page 111, paragraph 5.12, which deals with disposition/destruction of illicit drugs.
That's correct, Commissioners. This is the correct protocol that I've been referring to.
Okay. Thank you. So then we may move on to your paragraph 5.
On 8 May 2020, members of the DPCI Durban Serious Organised Crime Investigation Unit followed up on information in relation to a container that was already offloaded from the vessel Polonia that originated from the Port of Santos in Brazil. Upon further investigation, 35 kilogram bricks of suspected cocaine was recovered from a container. The cocaine had the logos Nautica, BMW, MTA, Z and H on the wrappings. The crime scene was properly dealt with in terms of crime scene management principles. The exhibits were photographed and sealed in forensic evidence bags. The mass of the suspected cocaine was 35 kilograms. The exhibits were booked in at Maiden Wharf SAP 30 SAPS under a specific reference number. The exhibits were submitted to the Forensic Science Laboratory in Amanzimtoti on 21 May 2020. FSL confirmed that the exhibits are cocaine. The case was investigated under a reference number of Durban SOCI. Commissioners, perhaps at this point in time, I should indicate that in this list, there was 3 cases where the exhibits was submitted to FSL in Amanzimtoti. And the reason for that is that you will observe that the mass of these exhibits is much lesser than the bulk seizures that was ultimately submitted to FSL in Silverton. So it includes this 35 kilograms as well as some of the seizures that is subsequently discussed.
Thank you, General. Before you move to the next seizure at paragraph 6, and I think this will be a theme that runs through each one of these as you deal with them. If we look at the first, at the bottom of that paragraph 4, which is at page 3, similarly with the case you have just dealt with, the third line from the bottom of that paragraph, consistently you indicate FSL confirmed that the exhibits were mandrakes. That was the case with the first one. Now, with this seizure, you say at line 3 from the bottom of that paragraph, FSL confirmed that the exhibits are cocaine. This confirmation that you consistently reference, it's safe to assume it's a written confirmation that would be filed and with the investigating officer. Where does it go?
That is correct, Commissioners. Upon finalization of the analysis by FSL, a Section 212 statement or affidavit is prepared and submitted to the investigating officer of the matter. That then forms part of the case docket or the inquiry as part of the bundle of evidence in that case docket or inquiry.
And do you recall that we briefly touched on the case referred to as the inquiry in respect of the Port Shepstone drug seizure? Would it be a correct assumption? Firstly, was the Section 212 statement an analysis report filed in respect of the Port Shepstone seizure?
No, Commissioners, there was never a report submitted or received from FSL.
Formally, therefore, we don't know whether what was stolen was in fact, what was seized at the harbour was in fact drugs. Is there a report that confirms that it was firstly drugs and secondly that in fact it was cocaine?
There is no such report, Commissioners.
Okay. And if such a report would have been filed, is it fair to assume that it would be filed in the inquiry docket opened by DPCI?
Yes, it would have been filed in the inquiry docket, Commissioners, because that was the instrument used to investigate the matter under an inquiry.
Okay.
Can I just get clarity on that? How long does it usually take from the date when the drugs are seized to when such a report is produced, identifying what the substance is? Or because in this case, I'm thinking June, July, August, September, October, until early November. It's over 4 months. Drugs are stored in a warehouse or in an office. No tests are conducted until the drugs mysteriously disappear.
Commissioners, as I've testified yesterday, obviously it will depend on the storage capabilities at the Forensic Science Laboratory. If there's space and it's not bulk exhibits, for instance, they will accept it. But it has happened, and from my reading of the respective inquiries and case dockets, it's clear that there's multiple references to the fact that upon a request being made to FSL, they were informed that they do not have storage facilities available, obviously based on a heavy workload. So there's multiple cases before this matters that needs to be dealt with before these exhibits can be submitted. So obviously it prolongs the submission of the exhibits to the Forensic Science Laboratory.
But surely there has to be proof that there was a request and that request was declined because of the workload, or that you must wait in line. It will take about 6 months for us to get to your consignment and test it. Is there any paperwork that reflects that all of that was done?
In some instances, yes, commissioners.
in this specific case?
But no, predominantly it is inquiries that was made telephonically and then entries made in the SAP5, in the investigation diary.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioners, what I can perhaps also add to my statement here, in this matter specifically, due to the proper manner in which the investigation was conducted, the evidence collected in this case was lawfully transmitted to the United Kingdom upon their request, obviously by means of a mutual legal assistance application. And the UK authorities managed to prosecute an individual in the United Kingdom and obtained a conviction on the matter relating to the facts of this narcotics. So it's just proof of the transnational nature of these offences.
General, let me apologize to you and Advocacy Law. My questions related to the Port Shepstone drugs, but in your further response, it seems like you were talking about what is in paragraph 5 of your supplementary statement. So my questions were aimed at the Port Shepstone drugs that went missing. So sorry if I was not very clear.
Perhaps, General, at least for the sake of tomorrow's readers, so that there is no confusion of the transcript, the question Commissioner Khumalo had posed was presumably any request to the FSL would be in writing. That was the first. And I think you confirmed that it is expected to be in writing and recorded somewhere, and where the FSL is not in a position to store the drugs from a recent seizure because of lack of space, they would equally indicate in writing. So there is a record of the request and how the request was dealt with. Would that be correct or not necessarily?
Commissioners, I'm not 100% sure in terms of the Port Shepstone matter. I was speaking in general about my observations throughout the inquiries that I've analyzed. And there it's my observation that predominantly it's being done telephonically. So I'm not 100% sure in terms of the Port Shepstone matter. But I believe we can clear that up.
Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Would you go back to your annexure HFF2? As I have it on record, that is the National Instruction 8 of 2017.
That's correct, Commissioners.
And it would appear to be the same document that General Msigidi is referring to here.
That's correct, Commissioners.
I flip in that actual document to paragraph 12. And paragraph 12 will be found at page 97 of that document. 97. And under paragraph 12, the heading is different. It's vehicles. Do you see that?
That's correct, Commissioners.
General Msigidi quotes it as paragraph 12 as property dealt with by experts. However, if I flip back to paragraph 9, and that is at page 76, I locate in the exact terms as quoted by General Msigidi, in paragraph 9 at sub 2. What General Msigidi references. So the situation that we are confronted with is either you have put up a wrong document or you have put up a correct document, except there is perhaps a typographical error in General Msigidi's statement. For example, if you read paragraph 9, it reads, all property and exhibit Cs must be entered into the SAP 13 register of the relevant police station where the crime was committed or where the property was found, and then transferred to the relevant unit and entered in this SAP as 13 of the relevant unit. It continues still under sub B, sub 2. The SAPS 13 registers of these units must be inspected regularly, and these instructions are applicable to those commanders. Do you see?
That's correct.
Now, if we go back then to General Musikidi's report, these are the exact same words that are quoted here, except that they are said to be in terms of paragraph 12.2a and paragraph 12.2. Now, if you were to go back to the vehicles, there is in fact paragraph 12 vehicles. There is no paragraph 12.2 for starters. How do we reconcile? How do you suggest we reconcile these seeming contradictions?
Commissioners, it is obvious that there was a typo in the report by General Mosekidi, where it's referred to 12. It's supposed to be paragraph 9(2), and as Katselu indicate, there is no such 12(2). So it's supposed to be in totality referring to paragraph 9(2).
And you maintain that the National Instruction 8 of 2017 that you have annexed as Annexure HFF2 is the correct document.
That is the correct instruction, National Instruction, Commissioners, that's correct.
Okay.
Is it the one that was applicable when General Musikidi prepared her document?
I make that
These things can undergo amendment and additions, so.
that would perhaps be a second question, because I'd made the assumption that it was, because General Musikidi quotes the actual name of the instruction note as National Instruction 8 of 2017.
Yeah.
If she was looking at a different document, then we have a situation where we have two National Instruction 8 of 2017.
Yeah. No, my question is slightly different. Is it possible that it's the same document, but because it's a living document, over
You mean
time
as
there
it
were
stood?
amendments made to it, but it remained National Instruction of, but it underwent amendments so that by 2021, what you see as paragraph 9 was in fact now paragraph 12.
It is possible, and perhaps General Flynn may cast some light on that. Did you understand the question, General?
I understand the question, Commissioners. I'm not aware of any amendments that were made, so I think the detail reflected here is indeed correct, but it's supposed to be reflected under 9(2).
All right.
As corrected.
And for completeness, Commissioner Kumalo, perhaps what we may do, we may request General Musikidi to clarify whether the annexure HFF2 that General Flynn has put up is the exact same document that she references here, or whether it was perhaps an amended version of it, of a prior date. We will look into that and revert. Thank you. Thank you, General. General Musikidi then considers both the report by General Sinona and the letter by Lieutenant Colonel Singh in her information note. You confirm that?
That's correct, Commissioners.
And she concludes the report by making certain recommendations, and these start at page 119 of Annexure HFF1.
That's correct, Commissioners.
Now, I would like you, I guess for the record, there are 4 recommendations made. If perhaps you could read them into the record, and then we will consider what is set out therein. Thank you.
6.1, that the national head appoint a senior functionary at the level of a major general to lead an investigation in terms of SAP's disciplinary regulations 2016 to establish whether misconduct was committed in the handling and storage of the exhibits. 6.2, that the senior functionary provides the outcome of the departmental investigation in terms of Regulation 8.1 of the SAP's Disciplinary Regulation 2016. 6.3, that an audit be done at all DPCI buildings and offices to check compliance with minimum information security standards. And 6.4, that the provincial head KwaZulu-Natal provides a progress report on the site inspection recommendations by Crime Intelligence during January 2020?
Thank you, General. Before we deal with other issues here, are you aware if any of these recommendations were given effect? My apologies. I'll restate that. I was saying before we deal with the remainder of that document, I would like to find out whether you, based on the position you occupy within DPCI, are aware of whether or not any of these recommendations were given effect to.
Commissioners, it is my understanding that no disciplinary steps were initiated against Major General Sonona or any of his subordinates. So that speaks then to obviously recommendation 6.1 and 6.2. I do not have knowledge in terms of the recommendations on 6.3 and 6.4 respectively, so I will not be in a position to respond to that, Commissioners.
What should we make of General Libia's, because he doesn't approve the recommendations, he says discuss paragraph 6.
That was the next step I was getting to. I just wanted to test with the general whether any of them were carried out. I do note the caution raised by General Libya. Now, as I read this document, if you go to 113, it is directed to the National Head Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation. And at the time, that was General Libya, correct?
That's correct, Commissioners.
And as Commissioner Kumalo has indicated, it is put to him to approve or not approve all of the 4 recommendations made. You see that?
That's correct, Commissioners.
Now, there is a note in manuscript there. Discuss paragraph 6, thank you. Now, I accept, and it's signed by Lieutenant General National Head Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation, SG Libya, and dated the 28th of January 2022. I accept that you wouldn't know whether or not General Libya and General Musikidi didn't discuss, as he had suggested.
That's correct, Commissioners.
I was more interested in whether or not in your environment you are aware of any of these recommendations having been carried out. And you have responded to that. So I get Commissioner Kumalo, this is a matter that General Libya is better placed to shed light on. Thank you. I'm particularly interested in recommendation 6.3, the wording thereof, which suggested that an audit be done on all DPCI buildings and offices to check compliance with MIS. Even outside the context of this document, which is where that is put up as a recommendation to General Libya, are you aware of an audit of these buildings ever having been undertaken?
Commissioners, as I've stated, I have no knowledge of recommendation 6.3 and 6.4 respectively, and I will not be able to comment on that.
No, General, my question is slightly different. Are you aware of any audit since the break-in at Port Shepstone of DPCI buildings and offices to check for compliance with MIS? Are you aware of that exercise at all?
I'm not aware of any such exercise, Commissioner.
Thank you. Commissioners, I think before I suggest wrongly, if we go back to your statement, that would then mean that we have covered, and I need you to confirm your paragraph 66, 67, and 68. Do you confirm that we have covered what is raised in those paragraphs through the engagements we've had?
That's correct, Commissioner.
Okay. I know that after 68, you then make certain concluding remarks. I would invite you to deal with them, except I think that might be best done after you have dealt with your supplementary statement. So if we could pause that part of your statement and turn our attention instead to your supplementary statement that was admitted into evidence this morning. That should be located at the back of your file. And you indicate in this supplementary statement at paragraph 1 that you prepared this statement to deal with the analysis that you conducted, where you compared the events that transpired relating to 541 kilograms of cocaine seized since June 2021 and stolen from police custody in November 2021. And you do that comparison with other drug busts, seizures in Durban in the period 2020 to 2022, correct?
That's correct, Commissioners.
And that is the narrow view, perspective of this supplementary statement, that is its sole purpose. Am I correct?
That's correct, Commissioners.
Then if you could take us from paragraph 2 of your supplementary statement, which is where you deal with this analysis you conducted. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. In January 2026, I called for the inquiry files in respect of identified drug busts in Durban during 2020 to 2022 to see whether the 22 June 2021 seizure is evidence of a worrying pattern of irregularities or whether it is an anomaly. Perhaps my audit would reveal that additional training was required because this is a pattern of non-compliance with prescripts during seizures and that there is an innocent explanation for the irregularities. However, the subsequent theft of the 541 kilograms of cocaine made me very suspicious that the seizure irregularities were not the result of inadequate training. According to the DPCI's records, the following seizures occurred in Durban during the period 20 to 22. I'm not referring to any clandestine drug laboratories, Commissioners.
That is then followed by a table listing a number of cases which you say are seizures that occurred in Durban during the period 2020 to 2022. Below that table, you then address each seizure in turn. As we get to then paragraph 3 in that table, before we deal with each seizure in turn, are there any comments you'd like to make to this table?
Commissioners, it's explained in detail in the following paragraph, so I can perhaps deal with the incidents and then perhaps go back to the column if that's needed.
Yeah,
Summary.
I'm happy with the approach. So then we'll turn our attention to paragraph 4 of your statement at page 2. And that's where you deal with the first seizure, correct?
That's correct, Commissioners. On the 5th of February 2020, members of the DPCI, Durban Serious Organised Crime Investigation Unit, were summoned to a crime scene at the CHC depot in Prospecton, Durban, where SARS Customs detected a consignment of suspected mandrax. The suspected mandrax was hidden in a container that was offloaded from a vessel that originated from China. The crime scene was properly dealt with in terms of crime scene management principles. The exhibits were photographed, weighed, and sealed in forensic evidence bags. The mass of the suspected mandrax was 547 kilograms. The exhibits were booked in at the Isipingo SAPS under a reference number, and then the exhibits were submitted to the main forensic science laboratory in Silverton on 12 November 2021. FSL confirmed that the exhibits were mandrax, and the case was investigated by Durban under a certain reference number.
Before we proceed to the next, can overlook at page 6,
On 28 November 2022, where members of the DPCI SOCI attended to a crime scene at R&D Port Operations, where 60 bricks, 60 kilograms of suspected cocaine was seized from where it was hidden in the cargo in the container. The container originated from the Port of Santos in Brazil. The crime scene was properly dealt with in terms of crime scene management principles. The exhibits were photographed and sealed in forensic evidence bags, and then the exhibits were booked in at Brighton Beach SAPS under reference number Brighton Beach SAP 13, and the exhibits were submitted to FSL in Silverton, and they confirmed that the exhibits were cocaine. The matter was investigated under a Durban reference number.
And would we be reading your statement correctly, where you conclude on each case by referencing the investigation number, case number, but you say nothing further about that no convictions as yet have been obtained in respect of any of these seizures? Would that be a fair conclusion?
That's correct, Commissioner.
I will not inquire into the reasons thereof. I just wanted to establish the status of prosecutions and convictions, if any.
No, there was no convictions or prosecutions in any of these matters, Commissioners.
But you consider them live and ongoing matters?
Well, that's part of the inquiries that I summoned and retrieved from KZN, and there's ongoing investigations, Commissioners.
Thank you. I'm happy with that.
General, is there a standard, a prescribed standard for where to store seized narcotics in the same way that you have a standard about how to store firearms? You know, it has to be in a particular safe, as I understand, a safe of a particular type. Is there such a standard which would inform, let's say, generals, to use Potchefstroom, that would have informed General Sinona that this is not an appropriate place to store and rather go to, I think you say, let's say Brighton Beach, because it meets the required standard for storing of narcotics. Is there anything like that?
Commissioners, I'm not aware of such a standard, but that's why it's important that, and if a specialized unit need to establish its own SAP 13, I believe that's part of the considerations that the national head would have taken into consideration before approving or disapproving such an application for an SAP 13 at the unit. Inter alia, is it just a strong room, or is it a properly built up walk-in safe with proper doors, for instance, locking systems, alarm systems, not just in the safe but outside, perimeter fencing, beams, etc. All these considerations. So I think that's the important part here, is to during that consideration phase, whether there is additional safeguarding in place or not.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, General. On that point, perhaps for completeness, it might be worth our while to refer to your annexure HFF2. We've dealt with this before, and that is the National Instruction 8 of 2017. Commissioner Baloyi had requested had asked whether there are protocols around dealing with seizures of this nature. I would like to refer you in particular to page 86 under sub 8, and I think that is the main paragraph starts, if I can find my place, I think it's 12. It's 11, it starts at 79, paragraph 11. At page 79, under the heading property, then it deals with various kinds of properties, and specifically at page 86, sub 8, it deals with drugs. And it speaks to a protocol that must be adopted in the storage of the specific drugs as are listed there. And overleaf at Roman 7, which then would be paragraph 11, sub 8, sub B, sub Roman 7, would then deal with the issue of the sealing in forensic evidence bags and have to be marked with the SAP 13 number. You are familiar with the protocol set out here.
Yes, I'm fully au fait with specifically 8B commissioners. I think 8A is perhaps the most minimum requirements. I cannot think that it's exhaustive, and that's why I said I'm not aware of a specific protocol in terms of requirements for an SAP 13 facility. But it just makes sense that there need to be additional safeguards to ensure that criminals cannot get to the actual exhibits that's placed in a walk-in safe.
Thank you. I just wanted you perhaps to comment on that as well, to add to the response you gave to Commissioner Baloy. We then, I think we are now at your paragraph 11
That's correct.
of your statement at page 6. If you can then take the commissioners through that.
From the aforementioned, I was able to ascertain that unlike the June 2021 seizure, 11.1, LCRC was called to the scene to process the crime scene in respect of all the other seizures, except for the second Polonia vessel seizure and the Manuchar seizure, as I explained earlier. All the exhibits were sealed at the crime scene. No samples from the exhibits were submitted to FSL whilst the exhibits were still in storage. There is no record that the sealed evidence bags were opened at any time before all the exhibits were submitted to FSL. And then all the bulk exhibits were submitted to FSL in Silverton, except for the three exceptions that I've highlighted.
Just 2 seconds, General.